Hi, and thank you for tuning in to Noir Histoire. I'm Natasha, and in this episode, I'll be sharing what I've learned about Harry Pace. Harry Pace was born on January 6, 1884, died on July 19, 1943. He's a notable entrepreneur, nationality American. Few details are known about the early life of Harry Herbert Pace. Pace's grandfather had been freed from slavery after he was moved from Virginia to Georgia. Pace was later born in Covington, Georgia, to Nancy Ferris and Charles Pace. Unfortunately, Pace's father, a blacksmith, died when he was an infant, leaving him to be raised by his mother. At the age of 12, Pace completed elementary school and went on to study at Atlanta University, now Clark Atlanta University. He supported himself in his studies, working in printing and various odd jobs. 7 years later, Pace graduated as the valedictorian of his class. W.E.B. Du Bois was a professor at Atlanta University and became a mentor to Pace. The two launched a printing press business and later a magazine. While they would eventually sever their business ties, Pace would continue to make donations to Du Bois's projects. Pace went on to work in banking and insurance, eventually moving up in rank and becoming an executive. In 1912, Pace moved to Memphis, where he continued to work as a professional. Shortly after arriving in town, Pace met W.C. Handy, the father of the blues, and the two became friends. He also met and later married Ethelyn Bibb. Handy and Pace began a songwriting partnership and at times collaborated with the composers Fletcher Henderson and William Grant Still. They established the Pace and Handy Music Company, which primarily focused on publishing sheet music. The company successfully generated revenue with hit songs by Handy and other musicians. In 1921, Pace and Handy Music Company relocated to New York City. This was likely in part because there was a larger pool of white record labels to which they could sell sheet music. Up to this time, the industry purchased sheet music to be performed by musicians. Pace saw that the industry was moving towards recording songs and performances for sale as records. The 1920s marked the beginning of several progressive black movements: the artistically expressive Harlem Renaissance, the rise of Marcus Garvey, calls for black economic independence, and a desire for black self-determination. Pace realized that the white record labels were buying sheet music created by black artists, but recording the songs with white artists. On the occasions where black artists were selected to record a song, it was often with constraints on how they were sang or performed. Those observations, coupled with Pace disagreeing with some of Handy's business practices, led to him leaving the company. The business relationship ended without malice, as Pace chose to start a new company on his own. With the assistance of outside investments, Pace established the Pace Phonograph Corporation to produce and Black Swan Records to distribute records. Pace initially operated the business out of his home in Harlem's Strivers Row, where he converted the basement into a recording studio. White record companies attempted to keep Pace out of the industry by cutting off his access to record pressing. Yet Pace persevered, and the company saw success in the form of thousands of shipped records and $100,000 in revenue in its first year. Thus, Pace became the first black record industry mogul, a precursor to Berry Gordy. Focusing on black consumers, Black Swan Records recorded and released records by Ethel Waters, Mamie Smith, Alberta Hunter, Trixie Smith, and others. The company helped to popularize jazz and the blues through its records and live performances on tours. With its success, Pace expanded the company's promotional and sales force across America. He bought a building for the company's offices, a recording studio, and a record pressing plant. Unfortunately, Pace's expansion of his record business occurred right when record sales began to slow as radio became more popular. Once again, Pace found himself on the outside looking for a way in. Lacking connections within the radio industry, he was unable to capitalize on radio promotion for driving awareness and sales of records. Within 2 years of Black Swan's founding, the company was forced to file for bankruptcy, and its song catalog was sold. But the company was still significant despite its short existence. The label signed and recorded some of the first songs by black musicians at a time when white labels ignored black musicians. The success of these records and tours proved that there was a market for black musicians and helped them gain entry into the recording industry. Some artists, such as Ethel Waters, went on to have legendary careers. The collapse of Black Swan did not extinguish Pace's entrepreneurial drive. He relocated to Chicago and went on to establish the Northeastern Life Insurance Company, which at one point was the largest black-owned company in the North. As if that wasn't enough, Pace also completed a law degree and established a law firm through which he practiced for several years. Harry Pace died on July 19, 1943. He was 59 years old. An interesting and troubling tidbit about Pace is that at some point in the 1930s while living in Chicago, Pace, his wife, and their 2 children began passing as white. Pace remained actively involved with various initiatives and organizations focused on the uplift of Black people, but in their personal lives, Pace and his family lived as white people. This detail remained a secret until 2007, which led to some of Pace's descendants living well into middle age with the belief that they were white. Thanks for tuning in. Show notes and sources are available on the Noir Histoire website via the link in the episode description. I'm working on creating downloadables and infographics, so keep an eye on the website. These Black History Facts are released every Wednesday, so if you enjoyed this episode and want more, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, and check out my Black History Facts playlist.